This is Gene Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 237, originally aired September 7th, 2016. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today, we're going to do a little tapping around feeling uncomfortable in public in times in which we want to feel invisible. Because we're going to be doing some tapping and there's not a long interview, I'm going to cut to the chase really quickly. So just 3 quick announcements. Number 1, if you have not done so already, we have a free 10-part guide to help you to stop self-sabotage using EFT. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com. If you happen to be listening to this in the website, on the right-hand side, up in the column, click the big blue button. We'll get you that guide absolutely free. Number 2, there are over 300 free audios in the podcast archive. Even though this is episode 237, there are 2-part episodes, there are bonus episodes, there's all sorts of extra audio in there. All of it is absolutely free of charge. Please go check it out. You can also download the Tapping Q&A app over there. That way you have access to the audios wherever you are, wherever you go. If there's a topic that you want to tap about, if there is someone who you want to hear interviewed, it is probably there in the archive. Again, it's free. Don't miss this opportunity to check it out. And finally, the podcast is sponsored by Pain Relief Miracle, which is an all-natural spray that works on cuts, bruises, scrapes, sunburns, joint aches, arthritis. It's awesome stuff. If you go to tappingqa.com/pain, that's tappingqa.com/pain, you will find a discount of 33% off of your first order. This isn't something that goes out to everybody in the world. Jason has only set up this discount just for the listeners of the Tapping Q&A podcast. It is in my medicine cabinet. It should be in yours. Go take advantage of that. Over the weekend, I was at Maximum Fun Con, which is basically adult summer camp up in the Poconos Mountains in Pennsylvania. There were workshops, there were comedy shows, there was all sorts of craziness. It was a really good time. In the middle of the afternoon on the second day, there was a keynote. And the keynote was given by Linda Holmes. Linda works for NPR. She is the head blogger on the Monkey See blog, which is the culture blog that NPR runs. And she is the host of the Pop Culture Happy Hour podcast, which comes out every single Friday, which is one of my favorites. And Linda told a really personal story. At one point, she was planning on giving a keynote on media and podcasting and niche markets and all of that stuff, which is an expertise of hers. But for the community there, she decided to do something different. And from the sounds of it, after she had written the talk that she ended up giving, she almost backed out of it, and a good friend had to talk her into it because it was so important. And it was a really lovely, beautiful story about how she has gotten much more comfortable dressing in a different way, going from jeans and t-shirts into really fun dresses. And over the course of the presentation, she showed slides of all these really awesome custom dresses that she had made for herself over the course of 6 months. And through the process of putting on funky dresses, she realized that she was being seen more. And that was a struggle for her and how she traveled through the world. One of the reasons why she had been in jeans and t-shirts most of the time is it was a uniform that just helped her to blend in and helped her to disappear. And at one point she said in the middle of her talk, and I don't know if this is exactly right, I typed it into my phone as fast as I could as she was speaking. And she said, trying to be invisible is a tacit attempt of saying, I don't belong here. And that's a really interesting thought about how when we show up places and we're not comfortable, that sense of comfortableness is an unbelonging sense. And I know this because that's the way I found my way to EFT. It was my social anxiety. And many of the places it showed up were the places where I really felt like I didn't belong. I can remember when I was junior in college, I was an RA. RAs are resident assistants. We live in the building with the students and we work for the university and we get room and board in exchange. We do programming and all sorts of other stuff. And so it was before the school year had started and we were doing training and I was hanging out with 2 other RAs. Both of them were older, and not just that they were seniors, but they had done other things and had returned to school. Both of them had military backgrounds. Both of them were larger and stronger than me. And we were hanging out one afternoon, having a conversation that lasted an hour and a half, and I said exactly 0 words. And the reason that was the case is I really felt like I didn't belong. I felt like somebody's kid brother who had tagged along, trying to fit into what was going on, and that at any given moment I was going to be scolded and rushed out of the room. And so today what I want to do is I just want to spend a little time tapping for that idea of places that we don't feel like we belong and we're trying to be invisible. And that could be because we don't feel like we're smart enough, we're witty enough, we're popular enough, we're beautiful enough, whatever enough. That when we feel that way, it's because we feel like not enough. And not enough, whatever it is less important than that feeling of not enough. Because, I physically feel smaller in those circumstances. And in a lot of ways, I wish I was smaller, so I wasn't seen. So we're going to tap for that. In addition to us doing the tapping now, I'm also going to transcribe this tapping. So if you happen to be listening to this in the app and you downloaded it somewhere else and you'd like to have a printout of the script so you can tap along to it, that's great. Just go to tappingqna.com, click on the podcast link, go to episode 237. If you happen to be listening to this in the podcast or in the website right now, down below the player, you're going to see the script printed out there so you can print it out and take it with you. Now, as we tap through this, for those who haven't tapped along with me before, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some instructions at the beginning. And then once we start tapping, I'm not going to tell you the tapping points to tap on. It's just tap from point to point. Trust your judgment, follow along, tap in the way that makes the most sense for you. Know that the way I'm doing it is between every single phrase, I'm just moving to the next tapping point and to the next tapping point. I'm also going to leave enough space in there. So if you would like to tap along and say it out loud, I'm going to create some space for you to do exactly that. And I would encourage you to do that if you're in a space that allows you to do that. So to begin with, tap on your side of your hand on the karate chop point. Just take a nice big deep breath for me. And take another nice big deep breath. And now I'm going to start at the tippy top of the head and I'm going to move from tapping point to tapping point. You do what makes sense for you as you tap along to this. I recognize the fact that there are times where I don't feel like I belong in any meaningful way. I feel like I'm not smart enough, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not talented enough, that I'm just not enough. And when this happens, I simply want to disappear. When this happens, I don't want to be known in any way. When this happens, I wish I didn't have to be there at all. I feel so insignificant. I feel scared. I feel like I'm only causing problems. And I feel like I'm only a burden. And I recognize the fact that when I'm in a situation like this, I'm not actually standing out. I'm not actually being noticed. Almost everybody present is too busy thinking about themselves, is too busy thinking about what is in front of them to even notice me. And what is much more important is the fact that I am worthy of being there. That I actually do belong. that I actually do have something to contribute. The part of me that is scared remembers those times where I didn't fit in, where I didn't belong. Or at least that's how I felt. And when we feel like we don't belong, we notice proof around us that shows we don't belong. There isn't actual proof. We're just drawing a conclusion that is far from the truth. I give myself permission to know that I am no different than anyone else I am around. That I am worthy of being here. That I belong to be here. And I give myself permission to trust myself, to trust that I can stand tall, to know that I am worthy. Because I was made worthy. It is something that is intrinsic. It is something that is a part of who I am. Even though there is a very young part that doesn't believe it to be so. This part is trying to keep me safe from all of the danger it sees in the world. I give myself permission to trust myself and to trust what is going on. Knowing that I can be seen. Knowing that I can be present. Knowing that I am capable of doing this in a way I give myself permission to trust the process and to trust myself. Because there's a part of me that knows I belong. There's a part of me that knows that I am worthy. There's a part of me that knows I have nothing to prove. Nice big deep breath. And give me a big stretch. Now, it's very possible as we went through this, other aspects popped up. I would quickly write those down if you can, as something that you can go back and tap to. You also might find value in just going back and re-listening to this again. Just keep reminding yourself of your worth and your value. Because when we feel worthless in those circumstances, it's not because of what others are doing around us. It's because of the way that we see ourselves. And this is a great opportunity to re-remind ourselves of who we are and what we are worthy of. I would really encourage you, if you enjoyed this, to check out the other podcasts that we have. Simply go to tappingqandapodcast.com. Like I said at the beginning of the show, there are over 300 free audios there. Please, please, please take advantage of them. It's a resource that is simply waiting to be tapped. It's being wasted right now because you are not using it. I would really encourage you to check it out. Download the app, tappingqandapodcast.com. You can find the link to the app for the Android device and for all iOS devices. You can find the podcast in iTunes, in Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Music Play. We are still the number one EFT podcast in the Google Music Play universe because we are still the only EFT podcast in the Google Play music universe. And so I appreciate that. Go over there, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Do that in iTunes. If you know someone in your life who could find benefit from what we did here today, please be our ambassador. Pass it along. Don't spam your inbox and send this to everybody in the world. But if you know someone who could use this, it takes a couple of clicks and they'll have the opportunity to do some tapping that might really transform their day and make them feel a lot better. Check out the Pain Relief Miracle Deal, tappingqna.com/pain, 33% off your first order. I love the stuff. You will love the stuff as well. If you have a question, if you have a comment, if you have a question like to hear answered in a future show, please drop me a note. GENE at tappingqna.com, Gene at tappingqna.com. You can just click on the contact link up above, and that will do it as well if you happen to be listening to this in the website. Let me know what's on your mind. I love hearing from you. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Monterastelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Monterastelli, Tapping Q&A 2016. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Monterastelli or Tapping Q&A.